Hello everyone, my name's Gabriel Coder and I want to welcome you to the first video in my Conflict in a Nutshell series. The goal of the series is to educate students and staff alike on all things related to conflict, with the focus being on concise and digestible short videos. Personally, when I'm learning online or in school, I always prefer things to be kept brief and concise. If there's one thing I hate, it's having my time wasted. Now without wasting any of your time, let's begin with our first lesson on defining conflict and conflict resolution. We'll begin by taking a look at and defining the word conflict, and then we'll look at and define the phrase conflict resolution. Now, I'll start by saying that conflict isn't easy to define. What even is conflict? Well, most people have a generally negative outlook on conflict, but we're taught in the ADR program that conflict isn't necessarily always negative and can sometimes be beneficial. In addition, conflict can be very big or very small. On the large end of the spectrum, conflict can mean outright war between countries, and these large-scale conflicts often arise from differences in politics, culture, religion, and many more reasons. On the small end of the spectrum, you could have two toddlers fighting over the same toy. They both want to play with the little dinky car they have, and neither are willing to budge. And that brings me to the question. How do you, the listener, define conflict? I want you to, if you please, pause this video and comment below your definition of conflict, or one word that comes to mind when you think of conflict. There's no right or wrong answer, I just want to see what you think. Thanks in advance for your answers. Alright, let's get to the definitions now. So, how does a dictionary define conflict? Well, Merriam-Webster defines it as mental struggle resulting from incompatible or opposing needs, drives, wishes, or external or internal demands. Well, that's a pretty decent definition, but what does Cambridge have to say? Well, Cambridge says it's an active disagreement between people with opposing opinions or principles. Now, while those are pretty decent definitions of conflict, who's to say either are the perfect definition? Everyone defines conflict differently because conflict is defined by your experiences with it, and everyone has their own unique experiences in conflict. I'd like to give my definition of conflict to provide a comparison. I define conflict as when two or more opposing parties have differing and often clashing ideas, principles, and/or interests. Once again, this is not the perfect definition of conflict. There is no perfect definition. But I hope you've at least gained some understanding about what exactly conflict means. And the truth is about conflict, that it isn't always bad. It's not an inherently negative thing, although it often can be, of course. Conflict can be helpful or even beneficial at times to either party. And in later episodes, I'll talk into more about win-wins and win-lose situations later. But for now, let's move on. Alright, so I'm going to try to define conflict resolution, but be warned, it isn't easy. Conflict resolution is a social situation where the armed conflicting parties in a voluntarily agreement resolve to live peacefully with and/or dissolve their basic incompatibilities and henceforth cease to use arms against one another. Now, was that just me, or did that not make any sense? You see, that's the issue with trying to define conflict resolution. It just isn't easy. Despite that, conflict resolution matters. Now, I will say that conflict resolution is somewhat intuitive, but once again, not easy to define. And it can be taught, but for some, it's intuitively known. For example, I found that I intuitively knew how to resolve conflicts from a young age. And then you can practice it, and you can refine your skills with it. But if you intuitively knew it, you'd probably have a better chance of being successful. And that leads me to the end of this lesson for today. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and just so you know, this is a series, and I will be posting 4 more videos in this series, so please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can stay informed of when the next video comes out, and thank you again for watching.